Art Rooney spoke about the 2023 season, the 2024 offseason, his expectations, the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, and the playoff drought, and much more. And leaving his little meeting, his on the record press conference, I guess you can call it, one thing stood out. One thing was far more important than the rest. And I think one thing is going to disappoint a lot of Steelers fans. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the season is over. The offensive coordinator search is heating up. The quarterback position has obviously caught plenty of attention, and we'll keep all eyes on it until further notice. And I just left an Art Rooney press conference, if that's what you'd like to call it. It's a group of local media members who are able to sit down once a year, and I'm very thankful to have an opportunity to do so myself, in a room with Art Rooney on the record and ask him some questions about where the Pittsburgh Steelers are, where they are headed, and his thoughts on this organization and his franchise. And this year, obviously, the questions were about the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. And we could dive into the quarterback, but it was a lot of the same. It was a lot of the same stuff that Mike Tomlin has reiterated, the same stuff that we believe going into it, the same stuff that I think a lot of fans are tired of hearing. But when it came to the offensive coordinator, things were different. And we got a bit of a deeper dive into where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand and their outlook on the offensive coordinator position, how they are going to fill it, and what type of candidate they are actually looking for. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have interviewed three guys, Gerard Johnson, Thomas Brown, and Arthur Smith, for their offensive coordinator opening. I expect them to interview more, I think. But at this point, it's about deciding whether or not to wait for the Super Bowl teams to finish and for that game to be over and give it another 2 weeks, where you are now waiting to see what happens and hoping that your plan B, if your plan A is part of a Super Bowl team, that your plan B does not get hired elsewhere, you do not lose that opportunity early, or saying, hey, look, we're not going to wait for plan A because plan B is just as good and we feel confident in it, and that's the direction we're going. I left that press conference, I left that meeting, and I think one thing was clear. If you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and you are sitting around thinking, man, things are headed in the right direction, this is going to be a splash hire, all of the things that we all were convinced were going to happen because that was the direction of the interviews, of the interest in early candidates, I think you're going to be a little disappointed when the hiring actually happens. Let's let Art Rooney talk about how he sees the offensive coordinator position, how he views candidates, and how the Pittsburgh Steelers are not really looking for somebody to come over and change everything, more so just come in here and improve what they already have.
You know, I think we have an idea of what we want the Steeler offense to look like. You start with that, and we have a certain roster mix that leads to that you can't completely change your roster overnight. So you kind of have to have a coordinator that feels like they can work with this roster and be successful with it. So somebody that believes in that and comes in and can work with this roster and do what's kind of already built here in terms of the roster and some of the skill sets that we have. I think that's what we're looking for.
You interviewed a number of guys that have had connections or ties to Sean McVay and Shanahan and some of those coaching trees. What's desirable about talking to people with that kind of experience?
I mean, it's a successful system. There's no two ways about it. Those guys have had a lot of success, and their approach to offensive football has been pretty impressive. And so it's not that I'm not going to say we're only going to talk to people that come off of that tree, but certainly worth talking to those guys.
Now, there are two things here. There is a positive and there is a negative. The positive is Art Rooney does acknowledge that the Sean McVay and the Kyle Shanahan coaching trees are the coaching trees that you want to take away from. Those are the ones that have the success, that have seemingly grown that success, and that if you are looking for a new OC, if you are looking for a revamped offense, that is the direction you should head as an NFL organization. I think it's good that he acknowledged that. I think it's good that he sees that in his head and that the team and the organization as a whole sees that, and that's the direction that they would like to go if they decide to go that direction. Now, the negative is, for those of you who are sitting around worried about Arthur Smith and worried that the Pittsburgh Steelers were just going to hire somebody who didn't have the success last year and wasn't able to work with guys like Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, or help a quarterback develop in Desmond Ridder, or really develop Ryan Tannehill into anything more than a guy who gets benched as soon as you leave, you might be disappointed. You might be sitting around and thinking, man, what I just heard was clear as day, because that's how I took it. The Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for somebody who is a run-heavy coordinator, who is going to come in here and work with guys like Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren and develop an offensive line even more than it already has, and stick to the plan and stick to the same things that the Pittsburgh Steelers have stuck to for a long time, which I think to some degree is the right direction to go. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are your guys. You still do not have a quarterback situation, and sorry, but I don't believe that Kenny Pickett is going to turn into a superstar overnight. So you're kind of looking at it like, if you're going to win and you're going to win now, it has to be through the ground game, which is Arthur Smith's specialty outside of last year when he could not do anything with his first-round rookie running back. Concerning. Let's dive into it more. When it comes to the long-term plan, that is where things get dangerous. Because if the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for a guy like Arthur Smith, who is going to stick around and run the football and develop that side of the game, but not really do anything with a quarterback and not really be able to develop a quarterback, you're looking at an offensive coordinator who is going to let Kenny Pickett struggle, who is going to hope that he finds a superstar quarterback, but if the Pittsburgh Steelers need to develop one, which they likely do, he's not your guy. And that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to find themselves, in a situation where they don't have a quarterback and they are stuck here again because they do not have a quarterback. And yeah, you can win all day long running the football, and I think that it gets you much farther than people want to admit it'll get you. It's not going to win you a Super Bowl. It's not going to get you past Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. It's not going to get you past Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. It's not going to win you a Super Bowl. And if the Steelers want to take that next step, if they want to get from here to here, they have to find the next quarterback, the next Ben Roethlisberger. And the way to do that is to develop him, because the Steelers are too good. They're not going to find themselves with a top 10 pick anytime soon. And they're not going to go out and they're not going to trade for Kirk Cousins or go and get a Russell Wilson. So if they're not going to do any of that, they have to develop a quarterback. And you need an offensive coordinator who could develop a quarterback. And that is not where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And it doesn't seem like that is the direction that the Pittsburgh Steelers are heading, whether Art Rooney says multiple times and Mike Tomlin says multiple times, we want somebody who works well with quarterbacks. Well, if you want somebody who works well with quarterbacks, but you also have a vision for how the offense is going to run, I don't really see how that goes hand in hand, because your offense currently is not built for a quarterback. It is not built for a offensive coordinator to come in here and develop his new offense with a quarterback to make it work for that young quarterback. It's built for a guy like Arthur Smith to come in here with Najee Harris, who is as close to Derrick Henry as you possibly get in the NFL, to come in here with a Jaylen Warren, to come in here with a decent offensive line, and a guy like Andy Weidel and Omar Khan who could add to that offensive line, a couple of tight ends, and say, hey, look, we're going to run the football. That's where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And I'm sorry to disappoint, but leaving that press conference, leaving that meeting, it was the first and only thing on my mind. Pittsburgh Steelers, if I had to guess, were going to hire or are going to hire Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. That would be my prediction. And it is only a prediction, but I think a lot of people are going to be let down. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to disappoint a lot of fans. And I just don't think that they care, because I think they view it as, this is the guy who fits our mold currently, which is true and probably will have some success. But at the same time, you are running a huge risk that what you have currently is going to last forever, and you are able to replace it and build off of it and take it farther than anybody else has taken it in recent years. Chances are that's not going to happen. You need somebody who could develop a quarterback. You need somebody who could work in a system and develop a system where a quarterback thrives. It just doesn't seem that's the direction that the Pittsburgh Steelers are headed.